They say men are simple, that all they want is peace, silence, and a warm meal, but that's a lie told to tame you. The truth? Some women, mature, wild in their wisdom, scarred by storms, drive men absolutely crazy. Not because they try to, but because they stopped trying. There's nothing more dangerous to a man's ego than a woman who has stepped out of her persona and into her shadow, who's met her demons, shaken hands with them, and kept walking. You've seen her. Maybe you are her. Maybe you're still afraid to become her. She doesn't chase. She doesn't explain. She doesn't dress her pain in pretty colors. And that shakes them, because men, unconsciously, don't want dolls. They want mirrors, not the kind that flatters, the kind that shows them what they've buried, their cowardice, their rage, their longing, their failure to become whole. Carl Jung called it the anima, the feminine soul within every man, a truth he runs from, a voice he silences. And when he meets a woman who embodies what he represses, he either worships her or tries to destroy her. Either way, he's lost. And she, if she knows who she is, stays rooted in herself. That's what mature women do. They don't lose themselves in his chaos. They force him to meet his own. She doesn't wait for a man to validate her existence. She walks into a room as if it belongs to her. And in that silence, he crumbles, because he's used to noise, to women explaining, proving, pleasing. But she's none of that. She's quiet. And in her quiet is war. She doesn't argue. She doesn't perform. She doesn't decorate her dignity. And that, to the unevolved man, is unbearable. He wants to possess her, not because he loves her, but because she reminds him of what he's not. She reminds him that strength can look like stillness, that depth doesn't scream, that seduction isn't in the flesh but in the mind. She is mystery. She is myth, and she refuses to shrink. Mature women don't soften the truth to be loved. They speak in daggers wrapped in velvet. They know that real intimacy begins where illusion dies, and men who live inside illusions feel attacked by that. They call her too much, too intense, too difficult. But she's not difficult. She just refuses to betray herself. She sees through him. That terrifies him, because most men build entire lives around hiding, behind money, muscles, status, control. But she sees past the facade, into the wounded boy, into the cracks, into the longing he refuses to admit. And she doesn't soothe it. She doesn't fix it. She just mirrors it. That's how she drives him crazy. Not with her body, but with her vision. Carl Jung taught that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. These women, these mature, unruly women, are fate. They come not to complete you, but to confront you. Not to love you into healing, but to show you what healing demands. They are not for comfort. They are for awakening. She sets boundaries without explanation. She disappears without drama. She says no without apology. And men, used to control, panic. They think love means access. That attention means obedience. But she gives neither. She's not here to be understood. She's here to be respected. And that makes her magnetic. Her sensuality is not for consumption. It's sacred. She doesn't flaunt it. She inhabits it. She doesn't seduce with skin. She seduces with presence, with silence, with depth. And men, programmed to chase what they can predict, unravel before her. Because she cannot be predicted. She cannot be owned. A mature woman has died before. She's buried versions of herself to be born again. She's walked through betrayal, abandonment, rejection, and lived. And you can feel that when she looks at you. That knowing, that fire, that unshakable sense that nothing outside of her defines her. That's what drives men crazy. Not her age, not her beauty, but the fact that she doesn't need you to survive. She'll love you. Yes, but only if you meet her in the fire. Only if you face your own darkness. Only if you stop running, because she won't chase you. She won't mother you. She won't play small to make you feel big. She's not here to complete you. She's here to challenge you. And if you can't handle that, you were never a man in the first place. Just a frightened boy wearing a mask. This is what Carl Jung meant by the individuation process. It's the painful, terrifying path of becoming whole. And women like her, they've walked that path, alone, bleeding, broken, but whole. And that wholeness radiates. It repels the weak and calls the brave. It terrifies cowards and awakens warriors. That's the secret. That's the madness. She is not difficult. She is not impossible. She is simply the truth. And most men don't want the truth. They want the performance, the fantasy, the lie. But when you meet her, the real one, you can't unsee her. You can't forget her. You either rise to meet her or spend the rest of your life haunted by the fact that you didn't. She sits alone, not out of loneliness, but because solitude is her sanctuary. She doesn't beg to be seen. She doesn't audition for love. Her silence isn't empty, it's layered. Every glance she gives is a challenge. See me without illusions, or don't look at all. Men approach her with games. She ends them with a sentence. Not because she's cruel, but because she has no time for masks. She's met too many, she's worn too many, and she's burned them all. He calls her cold because she doesn't melt, but it's not ice that keeps her distant. It's fire. She has been burned before. She's walked through betrayal that shattered her and remade herself without bitterness. She forgave, not to heal him, but to free herself. And now she guards her peace, like a wolf guards its den. Try to manipulate her, and she will vanish. Not with drama, but with dignity. That's the thing. Men crave what they cannot dominate, and she's not available for domination. She's not an accessory, not a prize, not a dream to be owned. She is a force, a mirror to everything he avoids. The way she looks at him. It's not flirtation, it's interrogation. She wants to know, are you real or are you just noise? She doesn't flatter, she doesn't coddle, she doesn't build shrines to a man's potential. She deals in what is, not what could be. If you lie, she'll know. If you pretend, she'll see through it. If you run, she won't follow. Because she's not chasing love, she's chasing truth, and that's why men fall for her, and why they fear her. She embodies what Jung called the integrated shadow. She has made peace with her rage, her envy, her desire, her fear. She doesn't deny them. She dances with them. And that makes her whole. That makes her magnetic. That makes her unbearable to men who are still running from their own reflection. A woman like her doesn't just enter your life. She invades it. Not with chaos, but with clarity. She dismantles your excuses, exposes your contradictions, demands your evolution. You can't be around her and stay asleep. You either awaken or you escape. But if you escape, you'll never forget her. Her words don't comfort. They awaken. She doesn't speak for attention. She speaks because silence would be betrayal. She tells the truth others hide behind smiles. And when she loves, she does not melt into you. She merges fire with fire. And that fire either forges something eternal or burns everything false to the ground. This is what drives men mad. She's not trying to be liked. She's not asking for approval. Her existence is a rebellion, a revolution. She is the proof that a woman doesn't need to be agreeable to be divine. She doesn't need to be soft to be sacred. She can be both storm and stillness, and only a man who has faced his own darkness can stand in her presence without trembling. They call her dangerous. They're right. She's dangerous to illusions, to ego, to control. She's not a safe harbor. She's a mirror lake, still on the surface but deep enough to drown in. And if you dive, you better be ready to see yourself. All of you. The parts you deny, the wounds you mask, the lies you built your identity around. Because she sees them, and she won't let you hide. She doesn't want to fix you. That's not love. That's control disguised as care. She doesn't need you to complete her. That's not intimacy. That's dependency dressed as romance. She wants you whole. Broken? Yes, but willing. Flawed? Yes, but honest. Wounded? Yes, but brave enough to stop pretending. Mature women don't want boys. They want mirrors. They want equals. They want men who have bled and kept loving, who have failed and kept standing, who don't flinch at the sight of their own soul, because she won't shrink to protect your fragility. She won't betray herself to soothe your pride. She won't abandon her truth to be chosen. She doesn't care if you stay or leave. She cares if you're real. She cares if you're awake. She cares if your presence brings truth or noise. And that indifference, it drives men crazy, because they're used to being the sun around which women orbit. But she is a galaxy. She is her own gravity. Jung knew this. He saw that the union of opposites, the masculine and feminine, the conscious and unconscious, is violent. It's not a wedding. It's a collision. And she is that collision. She is the sacred chaos that shatters your comfort and births your truth. She is the death of who you pretended to be, and the birth of who you were meant to become. So no, she's not easy to love. But that's because real love isn't easy. It's a crucifixion, a resurrection, a mirror held to your deepest shadow. She's not here to make you feel good. She's here to make you feel everything. And that's the kind of woman who drives men mad, not because she's cruel, but because she's real. And reality, when you've lived in fantasy, is the most terrifying lover of all. She is not loud, but her silence humiliates. It's the kind of silence that strips you. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't fill the air with empty words. It waits. And in that waiting, men unravel, because they've been conditioned to confuse noise with connection, performance with intimacy. But she doesn't perform. She presents. And her presence is brutal, because it demands yours in return. You can't fake it with her. You can't use charm as a shield. You can't distract her with surface. She'll smell the lie on your breath before you even speak. She doesn't need to know your history to feel your void. She senses what you hide, and that's what drives men into madness. Her ability to see what they deny, to hold a mirror up to the wound they dress in ambition and control. A mature woman no longer negotiates her value. She doesn't ask you to choose her. She doesn't wait for your permission. She walks away while you're still talking, not out of arrogance, but because her soul has learned the cost of self-abandonment. She's done being the good girl, the peacemaker, the savior. She is done with stories that star men and use women as plot devices. She knows the myth of the broken man waiting to be healed by a woman's love, and she burns it, because love isn't anesthesia, and healing isn't her job. Her love is sacred, but it is not unconditional. It has terms, and those terms begin with truth, with presence, with real courage, because she knows, if she has to die inside to keep you, it was never love, it was self-erasure. This is the woman who has sat with her shadow and not flinched. She has heard her own scream in the dark and didn't run. She's felt the weight of silence on her chest and breathed through it. She's faced abandonment, not just by others, but by herself. She's done the hardest thing a woman can do. Look in the mirror and admit, I betrayed myself to be loved. And now, she refuses. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow as the unknown dark side of the personality. Most people flee from it. She didn't. She made it her ally. And now? Her eyes burn with a knowing that terrifies men who still pretend. She doesn't fear being alone. She fears being fake. She doesn't fear rejection. She fears losing herself again. So she stands firm, even if it means standing alone. A man who meets her will feel an ancient pull, a gravity, but he'll also feel an ache, a sense that he must become more. She won't say it. She won't demand it, but he'll feel it. That silent dare, evolve or disappear, because she has no room for smallness anymore, no space for boys in men's clothing, no patience for wounded egos in king costumes. She doesn't want your money. She doesn't want your promises. She wants your rawness. She wants to see the parts of you no one claps for. She wants the death of your persona. And if you can't offer that, she won't stay. Not out of pride, but out of necessity. Because a woman who has tasted her own soul cannot digest lies. She will not make herself less to make you more. She will not bleach her fire to keep your hands warm. She will not bite her tongue to protect your image. She is not your mirror. She is your test. Can you face her without trying to fix her? Can you love her without trying to shrink her? Can you stand next to her and not disappear in your own inadequacy? Men say they want strong women until they meet one. Then they call her difficult, aggressive, unfeminine. But what they mean is this: she makes me confront parts of myself I've avoided for years, and instead of thanking her, they blame her. Because it's easier to shame a woman than to shed a mask. It's easier to demonize her power than to admit your weakness. But she knows. She always knows. When you touch her, she can feel the tremble behind your confidence. When you speak, she can hear the echoes of every unsaid truth. When you lie, she feels it in her bones. And yet, she gives you a chance. One chance to be real, to be honest, to meet her in the sacred space between illusion and truth. If you fail, she won't punish you. She won't lash out. She'll just vanish. Like smoke, like myth, like a dream that leaves you gasping when you wake. And you will wake. One day, in a bed too cold with a soul too numb. And you'll remember her. Not her body, not her voice, but the way she made you feel. Like maybe, just maybe, you were more than your lies. That is her gift. That is her curse. She sees the God in you even when you only offer your ego. She speaks to the king even when the coward answers. And when you walk away, unready, unworthy, she doesn't cry. She doesn't chase. She just turns toward the sun and keeps walking. Because she's not here to be chosen. She's here to choose. She walks with the pain of centuries in her bones. Not just her own, but the pain of every woman who was silenced, burned, betrayed, or broken. She carries that lineage not as a victim, but as a warrior. It doesn't make her bitter, it makes her discerning. She has no interest in empty affection. She's not here for pretty lies. She wants the sacred, the terrifying, the real. You can't love a woman like this with half a heart. She'll taste your hesitation like poison in wine. She'll feel the gap between your words and your soul. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be awake, bleeding, trembling, unfinished, but real. Because that's how she lives. Not above the pain, but inside it. Not beyond the fire, but through it. She doesn't flinch when you show your shadow. She's slept beside her own. She doesn't gasp at your anger. She's fed her rage with tears and turned it into wisdom. She doesn't run from your grief. She knows grief like a sister. But don't confuse her empathy with tolerance for bullshit. She'll hold your brokenness, but only if you're holding it too. This woman doesn't just want your passion. She wants your death. The death of your false self. The death of the man you became to be liked. The death of the one who plays roles but never lives truth. She wants the bones, the ashes, the raw soul underneath the mask. And if you're not ready to die, stay away, because she is the altar, and your offering must be everything. Carl Jung taught that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. She is that darkness, not evil, not dangerous, but deep. She is where light is born. In her silence, you will hear your real voice. In her depth, you will find your buried self, but only if you dare to descend. Most men won't. They touch her skin, but not her soul. They taste her lips, but never her silence. They praise her strength and then try to cage it. But she doesn't do cages. She doesn't do almost. She doesn't do someday. If you're not ready to rise, she will leave you behind. And not out of malice, but mercy. Because a woman like this will drown a man who doesn't know how to swim in truth. She's not impressed by titles, or power, or charm. She's seen behind the curtain. She knows most kings are cowards in disguise. She listens not to what you say, but to what you avoid. She watches what you defend, what you deflect, what you can't name. And she measures you by your capacity to sit in the fire, naked, silent, and willing to burn. She's lived through men who claimed they loved her but feared her truth. She's heard the promises that vanished at the first sign of discomfort. She's been touched by hands that wanted her body, but not her soul. And now, she demands more, not louder, not grander, just real. And that realness is what breaks men who have never been asked to be whole. She's not asking for your strength. She has her own. She's asking for your surrender, not to her, but to yourself. Can you drop the act? Can you name your fear? Can you admit your shame? Can you face the boy inside you who never felt good enough? Because if you can't, she will walk, and you'll tell yourself she was too much. But the truth is, you were too small. She doesn't want safety. She wants depth. She doesn't want fantasy. She wants fire. She doesn't want applause. She wants awakening. She will challenge you, trigger you, mirror you. She will ask questions that shake your soul, not to break you, but to see if you are already broken. Because she can't love a man who hasn't met himself. And when she loves, if you are lucky enough, it won't be sweet. It will be sacred. It will burn through your defenses. It will dismantle your pride. It will resurrect everything you buried. You won't recognize yourself. That's the point. Because love isn't comfort. Love is crucifixion. Love is alchemy. Love is the place where the mask dies and the soul begins. You cannot fake your way through her. She knows the texture of truth. She'll feel the lie in your kiss, the absence in your eyes, the fear in your touch. She will love you, yes, but only if you can hold her pain without turning away. Only if you can worship her mind as much as her body. Only if you can meet her, not just as a lover, but as a mirror. She is not for the faint of heart. She is for the man who has walked through hell and chosen love over armor. She is for the man who would rather be broken in truth than whole in illusion. She is for the man who is not afraid to weep, to kneel, to bleed for something real. Because she is real, terribly, painfully, gloriously real. And that reality is her divinity. She is not waiting for you to arrive. She has already arrived. In herself, through fire, through silence, through nights when she didn't know if the pain would pass. She has carved a home inside her own soul. And if you enter, it is not because she needs you, it is because she chose to open the door. That is the difference. That is the madness that men can't grasp. She chooses, but she does not beg. You can feel it when she speaks, that every word has been earned, that she's not repeating quotes, she's lived them. Her laughter carries the echo of grief. Her eyes hold storms. Her hands have let go of more than you can imagine. She doesn't need saving. She's done with saviors. She doesn't want control. She wants surrender, the kind that strips you bare, the kind that sets you free. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." She has paid that price, in loneliness, in exile, in rejection by those who wanted her to stay small, pretty, silent. She didn't. She broke the script. She became the thing men write poems about but run from when it stands in front of them. Because she doesn't fit into their world, she tears it open. She's not romantic. She's ritual. She's not sweet. She's sacred. She's not what you expected. She's what you forgot you were looking for. But if you approach her with ego, you will lose. Not because she will punish you, but because your own shadow will. She doesn't fight you. She just reflects you. And if you can't love what you see, you'll blame her. But that reflection, it is your gift. It is your map back to your soul. That ache she creates in you, that's your soul remembering its own fire. That discomfort in your chest, that's your truth trying to wake up. Most men flee from it. They retreat into easier women. Women who play the role. Women who stay small. But the fire never leaves them. The memory of her never dies. She is not the storm. She is the sky that holds the storm. She is not your healer. She is the wound made holy. She is not your path. She is the mirror that dares you to walk it. And if you do, if you face yourself fully, she will meet you there. Not as your prize, but as your equal. Not as your lover, but as your witness. Because love, real love, is not possession. It's presence. She does not chase. She does not compete. She does not perform. She knows that a man meant for her will not need convincing. He will feel her in his bones, in his silence, in the ache beneath his bravado, and he will come, not to conquer her, but to remember himself, because she doesn't want to be worshipped. She wants to be met, fully, fiercely, freely. She's not afraid to leave you. She's afraid to leave herself. That's the difference between a girl and a woman. The girl wants to be chosen. The woman chooses. The girl seeks attention. The woman seeks resonance. The girl wants safety. The woman wants truth. And truth is not always safe. Truth hurts. Truth sears. Truth demands. But truth is the only thing she will ever offer you. Jung believed that the feminine was not weakness, but depth. That the anima, the soul of the man, was hidden in the woman he could not control. She is that anima. She is not here to entertain your fantasy. She is here to shatter it. And if you let her, she will love you in a way that burns everything false. Not to destroy you, but to reveal you. So when you lie to her, she won't scream. She'll go quiet. And that silence, that's your sentence. That's the mirror closing. That's the soul saying, you weren't ready. And you will try to forget her. But you won't. You'll see her in your dreams, in strangers, in the empty space beside you. Because once you've touched truth, nothing fake satisfies. And maybe one day, after you've buried every excuse, after you've torn down every mask, you'll return. Not to win her, but to stand before her with nothing to prove. No armor, no script. Just you. Bare. Human. Whole. And if you're lucky, she'll see that, and she'll stay. But if not, she will bless you with her silence and keep walking. Because she was never yours. She was always her own. She doesn't forgive easily. Not because she's cruel, but because she knows what forgiveness costs. It's not words, it's soul work. And she will not hand that over to a man who doesn't bleed for truth. She doesn't confuse apologies with atonement. She doesn't let a man back in just because he knocks. She listens not to the knock, but to the silence behind it, to the energy, to the intent, to whether he has changed or just wants her light again. You cannot manipulate her with softness. She will feel the manipulation before you even speak it. She will see the shadow behind the kindness, the hunger behind the compliment, and she will not respond, not with words, but with withdrawal. Because that's how power moves. It doesn't scream, it disappears. And when she disappears, you'll feel it like death. Because her absence is louder than most women's love. She has walked away from men who loved her because they loved her through their wounds, not their wisdom. Because their love asked her to shrink, to wait, to pretend. But she doesn't pretend. She can't. Her body rejects performance. Her soul revolts against pretense. She would rather be alone than adored by someone who only loves the parts of her that don't challenge him. She knows what she is. She knows what she carries. She is not confused. She is not looking for a savior. She's looking for a witness. Someone who doesn't flinch at her fire. Someone who doesn't silence her storm. Someone who doesn't mistake her strength for hardness. Because yes, she is strong, but she is also soft. Incredibly soft. And that softness is sacred. It's not for everyone. It's for the one who has earned it. Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Ah, that is what she offers. A mirror back to your own heart. Not the one you perform for the world. The real one. The trembling one. The one still waiting to be loved. She sees it, and she dares you to love it too. But make no mistake, she is not easy. She is not comfortable. She is not convenient. She is confrontation in the shape of beauty. She is reflection in the shape of desire. She is silence in the shape of presence. You don't meet her by chance. You meet her when the illusion dies. You meet her when the boy inside you screams for something real. You meet her when you are ready to stop pretending. She has heard it all, that she's too intimidating, too intense, too much. But she is not too much. You were simply too little, too unformed, too afraid, too invested in a self that never truly existed. And if that truth wounds you, let it, because she is not here to keep you asleep. She is here to awaken the God you buried beneath your lies. She will never belong to you. You may walk beside her. You may taste her mind, her fire, her body. But she is not yours. She belongs to something greater, to the moon, the forest, the silence before birth. She is a child of the unknown, a priestess of pain, a daughter of the dark. And if you love her, truly love her, you must bow not to her, but to the part of yourself that trembles in her presence. And if she leaves, know this: it wasn't sudden. She saw the cracks long before they broke. She stayed longer than she should have. She gave more than you'll ever know. But when she's done, she's done. And no performance will bring her back. No apology. No flowers. No promises. Because she doesn't want promises. She wants transformation. And if you can't offer that, then offer silence, because she deserves a man, not just who loves her, but who has faced himself. A man who knows his shadows, who doesn't project his fear onto her strength. A man who doesn't need her to be less so he can feel more. That's what drives men crazy about her. Not her body, not her words, but the fact that she demands their soul, and that most of them have never even met it. You may call her a phase, a mistake, a lesson, but years from now, when comfort numbs you and your soul begins to rot, you'll remember her. In the quiet, in the night, in the ache of mediocrity, and you'll wonder if maybe, just maybe, you were not ready for the truth. Because that's what she is. Truth. Not dressed in poetry, not softened by smiles. Truth that cuts, that cleanses, that liberates. This is what Carl Jung never said out loud, but bled into every word. The woman who has met her shadow is the most dangerous force in the world, because she cannot be tamed. She cannot be bought. She cannot be broken. She is what happens when the feminine stops asking for permission and starts becoming herself. She is the death of illusion, the end of your performance, the birth of your truth. And that is what drives men crazy. And now you've heard it. Not a fairy tale, not a love story, not another sermon trying to tell you how to be liked, but a mirror, a war cry, a reckoning. You've walked through the fire with her. You've seen what she is made of. And now, maybe, you've seen what you're made of too, or what you're still afraid to become. This wasn't just about women. This was about awakening, about peeling off the false skin you've worn just to be accepted, about calling back the parts of yourself you exiled, about realizing that power doesn't look like dominance, it looks like truth, and that the women who embody that truth are not dangerous because they destroy. They're dangerous because they refuse to be destroyed. She is not a phase. She is not a mistake. She is not something you get over. She is a storm sent by your own unconscious, a spiritual interruption, a divine warning: evolve or remain empty. And you, if you are a woman watching this, don't you dare apologize for being her, for being loud in your silence, for being firm in your softness, for walking away without explanation, for being too much, too fast, too deep, too real. Let them drown in shallow waters while you rise from the dark oceans of your becoming. You are not here to be palatable. You are not here to be easy. You are not here to be chosen by those who have never chosen themselves. You are here to embody the wild, sacred, terrifying force of a woman who knows who she is, who holds the hand of her shadow and smiles, who looks at the world and says, "I will not shrink." To the men, this was never meant to flatter you. It was meant to fracture you, to peel away the mask, to make you remember that strength without depth is just noise, that dominance without self-awareness is a cage, that if you cannot sit with her truth, you will never touch her soul. And if you are not ready to bleed for the truth, leave. But do not call her difficult. Call yourself unready. Carl Jung didn't write for comfort. He wrote for confrontation. He wrote for those who wanted to meet themselves, no matter how terrifying that meeting would be. And this woman, this mature, fireborn, shadow-embracing woman, is the embodiment of that confrontation. So when you walk away from this video, don't forget her. Don't dismiss her. Don't reduce her to a quote or a mood board. Feel her. Let her live inside you. Let her haunt your decisions. Let her voice rise in your silence. Because that's what she came here to do, not to be remembered, but to awaken something you've buried for far too long. And if that something begins to stir, don't kill it, feed it, burn for it, become it.